Memory Power Tape number 5. Now we are ready to begin teaching you the link system. This system has an advantage over the loci system because your list of objects doesn't have to depend on a loci. The list is independent and it can possibly be stored more easily. The link system has been around for centuries, but unfortunately is known to only a few. In the link system, each item in a list is linked to the next item, rather than to another object, such as a plant, couch, or piano. The result requires only one list instead of a list and a loci, and if the list is recorded well, it is faster both for recording and recall. This system also makes up for the one inherent weakness in the loci system. Using the same loci objects can cause a recall problem when the items on your grocery list get confused with your list of things to do and your business inventory list. Go back now to the list of 30 items we used for the first test on the previous tape. How many of the words did you remember? Because short-term memory rarely holds more than 7 items, if you remembered more than 7 words, you did well. Later on, we will use the same 30 items to practice the link system. We will link each item on the list until we reach the end, and you are able to remember each of the 30 items on the list. Children are able to make links easily. They love making up ridiculous images, and it's not uncommon for a 10-year-old who has learned this system to remember a list of well over 100 words. One student's son, who was 6 at the time, remembered a list of 250 items in less than an hour and could recite the entire list in order over a year later. However, adults sometimes have a harder time with linking than children. Adults are often so used to practical thinking that it is hard for them to come up with imaginative or ridiculous images to link objects together. If you have difficulty forming a ridiculous image, you can use any of the other memory aids we discussed on the last tape, including emotional significance. The trick is to use any aid you can think of that will make your link more memorable to you. Right now, we're going to practice linking. We will give you 5 words one at a time. As you hear the words, we will pause long enough for you to link them together before we go on to the next word. The first word is coat, and the second word is tree. Link these 2 words together. Okay now, do you have your link? If so, we'll give you the next word. Cassette. Link cassette to tree. You should have your link now. Here's the next word. Coke bottle. Link Coke bottle to cassette. Okay, we're ready for the last word. The final word is computer. Link computer to Coke bottle. Now that you've formed your links, go back to the first word, coat, and see how well you remember your links. Obviously, 5 items is not a tough list to remember, but this short exercise should give you an idea of how the link system works. Since you have already formed your own links, we'll tell you what we came up with. Your links could be similar or vastly different from ours. There is no wrong link. Use whatever works for you. Here's what we came up with. Coat is the first word. Picture an oversized wool trench coat with a houndstooth check pattern in brown and beige. The coat looks worn and has lost its shape. The next word is tree. A small blue spruce tree is wearing the coat because it is cold. However, the coat is a bit large for the small tree and it brushes against the ground. The next word is cassette. It's Christmas time now, and the little tree is dressing up for Christmas. But instead of ornaments, cassette tapes are hanging from its branches. There are cassettes of all colors and variety. The next word is Coke bottle. You take the cassettes off the tree to listen to them, but instead of inserting them into a cassette player, you put the cassettes into Coke bottles to hear them. The last word is computer. You take a Coke bottle and ram it into the computer's disk drive. So much for the computer. Well, those are the links we came up with. Hopefully now you have some idea of how the link system works. If you want more practice linking, you can try the list of 30 items from the last tape. We'll read you the list again now. Ice cream, checkbook, salt, wig, shoe, maple syrup, bow tie, propeller, ocean, castle, cat, diamond, coffee cup, mirror, spider, bus, hose, seeds, glasses, sheep, textbook, dart, price tag, cherry, rattlesnake, telephone, Santa Claus, tent, golf ball, mountain. If you want to practice linking on your own, you can find this list on page 97 of the Memory Power Workbook. When forming your links, you should stop after you have linked the first 10 items and review your links. Review the links again after 20 and once more at 25. Stop the tape now and practice linking the 30 words. When you are finished, we will give you our links for these items. Okay, you're back now. Here's our link for the 30 items. You're eating a monstrous triple-decker ice cream cone. The ice cream tumbles off and lands on your checkbook, making a sticky mess. You open the checkbook to write a check, but it is filled with salt. You brush the salt off and it lands in a lady's wig, looking like a pile of dandruff. Her wig is incredibly long, reaching all the way down into her shoes. The shoe is filled with sticky maple syrup, so she takes it off and dumps the syrup all over your brand new bow tie. The tie begins spinning like a propeller, lifting you off the ground. It stops spinning and you fall into the freezing cold ocean. You sink to the bottom, where you find a beautiful undersea castle. You enter the castle and find an enormous black cat who rules the sea. The cat is wearing a collar with gigantic diamonds. You steal one of the diamonds and hide it in your coffee cup, which you take with you wherever you go. You throw the coffee cup as hard as you can at a mirror, shattering it. One of the shards of glass impales a horrible spider that was walking toward you. Good luck instead of bad. The spider tears himself free of the glass and hops on the next bus to get away from you. Instead of a bumper, the bus has an enormous garden hose sticking out in front of it. The hose is spitting out seeds. The seeds fall on the ground and sprout, and eyeglasses grow instead of plants. You put on the eyeglasses, but you can see nothing but sheep. Sheep are so dumb they'll eat anything, so they proceed to eat your textbook. You grab the textbook away from them and open it. A dart flies out, stabbing you in the forehead. You notice there is a price tag hanging from the dart. Instead of a price, the tag has a drawing of a cherry. You bite into the cherry, only to bite a rattlesnake hiding inside. Instead of fangs, though, this rattlesnake has 2 miniature telephones. You pick up the phone and call Santa Claus to tell him about your day. Santa's red suit is in the laundry, so he's wearing a big tent instead. You try to crawl inside the tent, but it's filled with golf balls. You hit one of the golf balls so hard it lands on top of a mountain. Okay, that's our link. We used a few tools to make it more memorable. We used exaggeration and action wherever possible. We made the links ridiculous, gory, sticky, or humorous wherever we could. And most important, we included you in the story. You should always put yourself in your link stories and become the main character. Another important thing you must always remember to do when forming your links is to drop each item from the story once it is used. Santa was wearing the tent, so how could we crawl inside it? Well, once Santa had been linked to tent, we didn't need him anymore. He was out of the picture and out of the tent.
This concludes the recording on this side of the cassette. You may continue the program by turning the cassette over.
The danger in keeping an object in the story is that you end up linking one item to 2 or 3 consecutive items. When you recite the story, you may drop 1 or 2 items from the list. For example, let's say you were linking fish, trap, hat, bike, and plate. A danger and a real temptation when you're making a link story is to carry fish beyond trap. For instance, this link could be created. The fish swims into a trap. I catch him and put him into my hat. Then I put my hat on my bike, and the fish falls out of it and lands on the plate. It doesn't sound bad until you go back the next day. You get the fish, and the next thing you remember is that he lands on a plate. You've just dropped 3 items from the list. A better approach to the fish story would be this. The fish swims into the trap. I put the trap on my head, under my hat. I take my hat off and it rides away on a bike. The bike runs out of control and smashes into an enormous dinner plate. This way is better because it's the fish in the trap in the hat riding the bike, and the bike smashing the plate. Now, when you first start forming your links, you probably won't be an immediate expert. You may form some links that you just can't remember. This is normal because it may take some time for you to get your imagination cranked up and start working for you. We have some guidelines that will help you form effective links that will work for you. Whenever you can, try to include action in your links. Exaggeration and anything ridiculous is also good. And like we said before, try to involve yourself in your links. Become part of the action. You also may have noticed a lot of smashing, stabbing, and other assorted violence. We used violence because violent acts are memorable, so they work. When you're forming your links, try to avoid inactivity and things that are ordinary or plausible. These are some things that are easily forgotten. Our list of 30 words was purposely easy. We didn't include words such as harm, helpless, pornography, and opportune. But in real-life situations, you will probably see lots of words like this. You will probably have a need to remember words that fail to form good visual images. Luckily, you can use substitution to help you remember these words. There are 2 forms of substitutions that you can rely on. One type of substitution you can use depends on meaning. If the original word suggests a meaning that can be tied to an object, then use the object in place of the word. For example, the word helpless may suggest to you a distinct mental image of a helpless person, perhaps a crippled beggar on the sidewalk. Substitute your image for helpless. Remember that original awareness will usually supply the word. You will rarely recall beggar in place of helpless, even though the beggar lives in your link. Some words don't lend themselves to any object, and they also may not suggest any clear mental image. Harm is a good example. It doesn't suggest anything concrete. You may be able to form a mental image of someone being hurt, but for most people, such an image is too far removed from the original word. Even original awareness may not keep you from thinking of hurt instead of harm. What you can do to solve this problem is substitute another word that sounds like the original word. Harm may become arm, or to combine both methods, it may be a hurt arm. Hurt plus arm equals harm. We've used this method before when we turned Oliver into Olive in the loci system. Opportune is another good example of a word that doesn't suggest a clear mental image. You may not be able to find one word to substitute that sounds like opportune, but two words will work just as well. You could use opera tune, if you can link that to the last object. For instance, the list fish, opportune, cowboy could become the fish is singing an opera tune about a cowboy. Substitution is a handy tool, but it will probably require some practice on your part. As you encounter more and more words that require substitution, you will be able to find words that will work for you quicker. Many students have difficulty remembering how the list begins. They complain that although they can remember the list easily once they get started, they can't ever remember the first item. You may have experienced the same thing at one time. There are two ways to solve this problem. One way is to think of one word in the list and go through your links backwards until you get to the first word in the list. This may work for you, but you may have trouble linking backwards. In that case, there is a second way you can remember the first word in your list. Every list you need to memorize will be related to something. The trick is to make a link between the first item on your list and the occasion that prompted the list. For example, let's say you need to go to the grocery store and buy bread, eggs, milk, and lettuce. Picture yourself entering the grocery store. You open the front door, which is now a 6-foot-tall loaf of bread. You push the bread door to get in, and it falls on an enormous crate of fresh eggs, splattering them all over the store and all over you. You scoop up the egg mess with milk cartons, pouring all the milk out on the lettuce. Now you have learned two memory systems, the loci and link systems. Using these systems, you have learned to memorize long lists of words you may have thought you could never remember. But you are capable of remembering much more. Actually, by combining loci and link, you can stretch a list of 100 items to 400 or 500 with some practice. The combination of loci and link is simple. Each fixture in your loci system is used to begin a link of items. To show you how this works, we will link 20 items to the same floor plan we used to learn the loci system. Here are the words we will use: potato, ceiling, dog, cucumber, snow, yogurt, shoelace, ocean, policeman, bucket, scissors, heaven, desk, raven, rose, spaghetti, record, boot, beaver, yo-yo. What we will do is link 4 items to each fixture. To remember all 20 items, we will use only 5 fixtures from the floor plan. We'll start with the plant. You notice that the plant seems to be growing huge potatoes. In fact, the potatoes are so big that they reach the ceiling. No, they're so big they break right through the ceiling. Hanging from the ceiling is a tiny black dog, yapping away at you in his tiny squeaking voice. He's holding an enormous cucumber in his mouth, thinking it is a green bone. You sit on the couch, only to find out the hard way that it is filled with snow. The snow melts and runs all over the carpet, but as it does so, it turns to yogurt. The yogurt is so sticky it catches your shoelace, so you're stuck to it. The only way to get it off is to dip your shoelace in the ocean, where the salt water will break down the yogurt. A policeman is standing in the fireplace saying, "Okay, Mac, where's the fire?" He's holding a bucket, apparently hoping to find a fire to douse. But the bucket is filled with scissors, not water. The policeman stabs you with the scissors, and you go right to heaven. You want to play the piano, but then you notice that it has drawers instead of keys. It's a piano desk. Sitting on the piano desk is an enormous black raven, almost as big as you. In its mouth it is holding a rose, like a Spanish dancer. The rose falls off the stem and lands in a plate of spaghetti, and you eat it by accident. When you open the refrigerator, instead of food, it is filled with records spinning madly, trying to play music. You want the records, so you steal them all, hiding them in your boot. You use your boot to kick the giant beaver that you suddenly notice sitting in front of you, staring at you. The beaver fights back with a yo-yo, flicking it at your head. You can see from our demonstration that it is not hard to increase the amount of items you can remember by combining the link and loci system. You have all the tools you need now to remember lists, and with a little practice, you'll be able to remember any list or speech outline you wish to commit to memory. Now you are ready to begin learning how to remember numbers. We'll teach you how on the next tape.